Indie games are pretty cool. So cool, in fact, that there's just way too many good ones. But fear not, dear viewer, for if you are the machine that turns Steam sales into 0 minutes played, then I am but a humble gas station attendant ready to fill up your wish list. Let's start you off with the premium. If you're a fan of roguelikes, the original Slay the Spire is a game that needs little introduction. There likely isn't a single line of praise I could utter for the catalyst of the roguelike deck builder subgenre that hasn't already been claimed over the past 9 years. Which is why it was pretty damn surprising to see the developers go, hey, what if we did it again? Popularity be damned, I like talking about good indie games, and holy shit, Slay the Spire 2 is a good indie game. The fact that it probably made a few of you click on this video is just an extra win in my book. For the sake of this video's format, and for the guy living under the world's largest rock that doesn't already know how this game works, let me quickly give you the elevator pitch. In Slay the Spire 2, you fight enemies and bosses in turn-based combat using a deck of cards that evolves over the course of each run, both through acquiring new ones and modifying them through random events on the map. A run-of-the-mill example of a developed deck could be, say, a build on the Ironclad where you temporarily destroy your own cards to buff yourself or deal massive damage. And a goofier one would be a deck on the Defect, my beloved, that can channel lightning orbs that deal damage when evoked. So you, stumble across 2 copies of a card that rechannels all the lightning orbs you've channeled in that fight until you're sending 95 bolts straight through the brain of an unsuspecting victim. And yet, these examples are still just the tip of the iceberg when you take into account colorless cards that can be equipped by any class, card modifiers like replay or extra damage at the cost of health, events to get cards from other classes or from Slay the Spire 1, and over 250 relics that do, everything. What I'm trying to say is that there's a lot of options. However, many rewards are not one size fits all, as a single card or relic can range from useless to run-defining depending on your acute circumstances. Unless we're talking about the claw. Because you always take the claw, real clawheads know. Plus, the game is also a tightrope balance of short and long-term decision-making, whether to heal at a rest stop or upgrade a card, whether to purchase a defensive potion for an upcoming elite or save your gold for rare relics at the next shop. The result is an endless stream of engaging choices built around information, with that nice little heart of the cards RNG still built into the deck system. Another small yet extremely important detail is that every enemy turn is telegraphed, from what action they'll take and how much damage they'll deal to a running tally of their buffs and debuffs. This lack of unwelcome surprises allows you to take a very methodical approach to combat while still attempting to predict your own card draw, and as you learn more about the game, it's incredibly satisfying to memorize both the gimmicks of enemies and where they might spawn on the map, further contributing to the game's seemingly infinite skill ceiling. There's no permanent vertical progression either, so outside of unlocking the full suite of items to find in each run, the only way to get better is to learn. While I do occasionally enjoy some Hades-style power scaling, a game like Slay the Spire 2 is my favorite roguelike format, and it's the style I often end up putting the most hours into. See Enter the Gungeon, Risk of Rain 2, you get the idea. Oh, and it's multiplayer. The inclusion of multiplayer alone has already made Slay the Spire 2 one of my most played roguelikes ever, as the interactivity and communication between teammates is just so much fun. There are co-op only cards that need to be called out in the right order, you can sacrifice your own time at a rest stop to heal someone else, and runs are often won through communication and building around the strengths and weaknesses of your teammates' choices. And you can also draw on the map with everybody. I usually avoid playing most video games until they exit early access, but I think Slay the Spire 2 provides a pretty novel experience while things are still getting tweaked. It's fun to incorporate new or reworked cards into existing strategies or notice smaller adjustments to shop prices and enemy damage amounts. Hell, there was an entire boss that was rebalanced, fully reworked, and then completely removed from the game in the span of a couple months. So getting to observe the challenge challenges that Mega Crit faces in creating a fresh yet faithful sequel has been a great experience so far. Despite only being in early access for about 3 months at the time of writing this, Slay the Spire 2 is already a massive triumph, and perhaps one of the easiest roguelike recommendations ever, but I'm likely not the first person you've heard this from. It's honestly difficult for me, a mere 100-hour plebeian, to fully praise the intricacies of its many interwoven systems, so I'll share an opinion from someone with a few more hours than me.
Yeah, I think the game's pretty good. Okay, now I make them kiss.
It's been 12 years since Shovel Knight came out. That makes me feel old. What started as a little Kickstarter game looking to revive retro platformers cemented itself as one of the quintessential indie games ever, and that kind of breakout success brought more Shovel Knight. Plague, Spectre, King, Dig, Dungeon, Rivals, Smash, this blue champion was truly flying high above the land. But eventually, it came time for something new, and as Yacht Club faced financial struggles and indefinite delays during a 6-year dev cycle, Mina the Hollower became something of a make or break for the studio. So, did they do it? Did they make a good video game? If you couldn't already tell from its inclusion in this video, the answer is yes. And now I'm kind of wondering why I even posed the hypothetical. How do you follow Shovel Knight? Well, you make Mina the Hollower, I guess. Break through every ceiling, barrier, and doubt by putting a mouse in a 2D Zelda-inspired Souls-like platformer. Genres. The main feature that makes Mina's exploration and combat feel so fresh is the hollowing mechanic. Simply put, Mina can bury herself into the ground to become mostly invulnerable and dig around before popping out into the air. While it may seem like little more than a speed boost and a jump, the way it's woven into every piece of the game's design is kind of incredible. You can dig up plants and treasure, use the speedy exit to cross larger gaps, interact with puzzle gimmicks, swim through deep water, and perhaps my favorite feature, reposition during combat. If you want to charge up a big swing or dodge an enemy's attack, it essentially acts as an extra long dodge roll that can even place you behind an enemy. I wrote down notes for how good this game felt 3 hours in, and I didn't have to edit them after rolling credits at hour 25. It just works. This is masterclass game design type shit. It's the kind of game that's almost boring to review because it's so good. The world of Tenebria is fairly non-linear, allowing for some fun variation in both exploration and challenge depending on the order in which you choose to fix the spark generators. And boy, do I love when I get to an area that feels a little too hard and it makes me a little mad. When I curse under my breath a bit because of a fucked up room that I should probably just come back to later, that's what reminds me I'm alive. Because so much of Mina's gameplay is focused on room design, there's an incredible amount of depth when it comes to customizing your playthrough. It somehow pulls off tight-knit action-adventure and sandbox combat at the same time. I had a blast tearing through the entire campaign with just the Giga Butt Blaster Charge Hammer, but there are 4 other weapons. Oh, and a bunch of sidearms, and 60 equipable trinkets. There are weapons that let you sneak around with daggers or parry with an explosive shield, trinkets that let you dig across walls or bounce on heads, and a fishing rod that you can use to grapple to enemies and catch fish, but the fish are also unique mini-bosses, and I either smell a Game of the Year contender or all the fish I just caught are kinda stinky. The one downside to this system is that some tools can completely redefine the way you experience areas in ways that feel a bit too optimizing the fun out of the game, like equipping boots that let you ignore slippery ice floors, or the electricity shield that lets you ignore the mechanic of needing to stay close to a metal tower to avoid getting struck by lightning. I think the versatility of all these tools brings far more pros to the experience than cons, but it is something I wanted to briefly mention. attention. Enough about core mechanics though, because I still gotta talk about everything else Mina does well. Everything else. The writing is witty and funny, no two bosses feel the same as they evolve into puzzle arenas or area-long chases, and secrets are cheeky, goofy, and always placed with intent. When you find a chest, you can really feel that someone put that shit there on purpose. A lot of Mina's most memorable discoveries are optional and fairly well hidden, making them feel all the more rewarding. I'm not even gonna give you an example here, because I don't want to spoil any of them. And last but not least, we have the soundtrack, which, oh my god. Jake Kaufman, what kind of ancient gods are you swearing a blood oath to make the Game Boy sound like that? Loner's Landing, Nox's Bayou, fucking Miniboss A. It's quite the challenge for any game to reach the obnoxiously catchy heights of Shovel Knight. I mean, I went to a fucking concert for that soundtrack, but like, if you like game soundtracks, you owe it to yourself to play Mina. I mean, every game on this list, technically. I'm supposed to love all my children equally, but like, Mina the Hollower fucking rips. The music is so dense, so alive, glittering every which way like a musical stardust, begging your ears to explore in every direction. It's the kind of soundtrack where your jaw is already unhinged from memorable hooks and a nasty, sizzling bass line, but then an even more nasty, more sizzling fajita plate type saw wave comes in for like 3 bars and forces you out of your seat to start shaking your little butt in the first area. Jake, it's the first area! Word on the street is that if you say childlike wonder or the joy of discovery as a reviewer too many times, they tar and feather you. But those phrases are the kinds of praise Mina the Hollower deserves in spades. It takes some real skill to throw so many classic ideas into a pot and still serve up something fresh and loaded with sauce, but my god, do the chefs over at Yacht Club know how to cook a fucking dish. Okay, you're not the next indie game, and why are you dressed like that?
I'm going on vacation.
With what money?
With the money you're about to make from the ad read I signed you up for.
You couldn't have at least told me about this in advance?
You'll be fine. It's indie game related. I should try a pina colada.
And he's gone. Do you like indie games? I mean, if you don't, then why are you here? But if you do, then you're in luck, because this video is sponsored by Lost in Cult, purveyor of many cool video game books, including their newest release, Terraria. The Terraria Design Works book is a deep dive into the creation of this indie classic, complete with concept art alongside in-depth interviews with both Andrew Spinks, the game's original creator, and the team that's helped expand the game over the past 15 years. And for the real Terraria heads, there's a deluxe edition pre-order available until July 31st, complete with all sorts of little trinkets. I'm talking pin badges, a papercraft kit, an entire card game, and a cool box to put all the little trinkets in. Lost in Cult's also got lots of other cool gaming stuff for sale, including physical releases, vinyl records, and books for games I've covered in past episodes of this series, like Lorelei and the Laser Eyes, Citizen Sleeper, and Tunic.
So if you want to get...
Back already?
I couldn't miss the call to action. Also, it was too hot. So if you want to get some cool gaming stuff and help support the channel, go to lostincult.co.uk and use code yakkocmn for 10% off the new Terraria collection or anything else from their store. And thanks to Lost in Cult for sponsoring this video.
Consume Me is a life simulation RPG about feeling ugly, lazy, stupid, and unloved despite the brilliant human spirit contained within you. No, I'm serious, that's what it says on the Steam page. You assume the role of Jenny, a girl in her last year of high school who is attempting to min-max her life. In each chapter of the game, you have to constantly keep track of the diet you've been pressured into while juggling larger goals like writing college essays with a growing plethora of other tasks. Mechanically speaking, it's all fairly standard stuff. I'm talking upping your stats through goofy minigames while managing hunger, happiness, and energy meters. But what makes Consume Me stand out is the way in which which it uses its life sim mechanics to communicate its narrative and themes. For starters, the artwork is absolutely adorable. Jenny is drawn as such a lively and goofy kid, and her exaggerated expressions add so much emotion to every cutscene and minigame. She grows teary-eyed while speaking to an evil perfectionist version of herself in the mirror, unhinges her jaw to down bags of chips in one gulp, and cartoonishly stretches her limbs during yoga sessions. Managing Jenny's life isn't a minigame amidst a larger narrative, it's the entire game, and the pressure of maintaining your diet looms large amidst the chaos of high school life. Every day, you have to carefully arrange Tetris blocks of food to satisfy your hunger without going over a bite limit, but this becomes more difficult when you're low on cash or can only grab the unhealthier options at school. Each day forces you to juggle an increasing number of stressors as they blend together, and repeating the same mini-games over and over causes them to mirror the habituality of the tasks they represent. But then, as new environments and goals throw wrenches into your routine, you may end up making decisions for the sake of completionism that subtly reflect the unsustainable aims Jenny has placed on herself due to the pressure of the world around her. I'd feel the video gamey success in completing every task, only to realize that min-maxing meant putting this goofy little kid on the grind set so hard that she wasn't spending much time with friends or just getting to be a kid. Actions that progress Jenny's to-do list goals or increase stats almost always lower her happiness, with raising it back up often requiring the use of unhealthy snacks that add more indirect stress by breaking the diet. I also found it optimal to power through headaches every day because the bonus actions earned from repeatedly staying up late and downing 3 coffees were too tempting to pass up. But like, that's kind of fucked up. At several points, the usual loop is also interrupted or altered significantly to reflect the messiness of life and the actual life of the lead developer, who just so happens to be named Jenny. Sometimes you have a random moment that changes the course of your life. Sometimes shit matters until it doesn't, and life goes on. Consume Me is a very funny game, a very endearing game, and a very human game. It's $15 and only takes about 8 hours to complete, so it's a short and sweet experience that I highly recommend. Real life Jenny has also been posting short form videos every day until the game sells 1 million copies, so, you know, I'm just doing my part here. Cairn is it's just one of those games. You know what I mean? It is a wholly unique experience to play a game fully designed around rock climbing and all of the minutiae surrounding it, rather than being relegated to a secondary traversal mechanic with a simple stamina bar. Awkwardly bending your arms and crossing your legs to wedge them inside the thinnest crevices, carefully eyeing the landscape and charting out an optimal path before even setting foot on the wall, using stronger footholds and ledges to shake out your arms and take a breather. Cairn pays attention to all of these details and the reflective moments in between, like taking in a nice view, gathering fresh water, even the gentle act of bandaging your fingers one at a time after the mountain repeatedly tears them apart. You could throw Breath of the Wild Link on a wall in this game and he'd climb it in a minute. In Cairn, it takes like half an hour, moving one limb at a time. It takes a lot of focus to climb, and if you aren't careful, you can lose progress in a flash, but it's this intermingling of danger and decision-making that makes pulling yourself up each ledge feel so rewarding. Each time I reached a checkpoint, I often found myself excited to cook food or sort my inventory because it was a therapeutic break from the stress of climbing, and added some nice strategy by forcing me to decide what to use up, what to save for later, and what to throw away. Or sometimes how long I wanted to sit there furiously shaking my bag to see if items would magically arrange themselves in such a way that there would be like a hole in the middle that could fit one more packet of instant noodles. At the risk of sounding trite by uttering one of the gaming industry's biggest buzzwords, I'm gonna say it anyway: immersion. And by evoking God's wrath, I don't just mean that the story is gripping or the gameplay is addictive. I mean it in a much more traditional sense. There are moments during which Cairn stops feeling like a video game. As I'd sit in my room late at night, lights dimmed, headphones on, it was just me and the wall. Ava would be over here, fingers bleeding, legs shaking, screaming for her life, and I'd feel like I was the one climbing the mountain, my hands sweating and my muscles tensed as I further destroyed my posture and pushed the left stick as hard as I could to reach just a little bit further. And yet I also found Cairn to be almost paradoxically calming through its intense focus. The sound of a nearby waterfall, birds chirping in the distance, the wind and rain lapping at my back as I'd meticulously wedge hands and feet between the smallest crevices. It's incredible. This immersion extends into a pretty ingenious stamina system. Rather than having a giant green bar on your screen, Ava's limbs will begin shaking based on how much she's struggling to maintain her grip. Let said limbs struggle for too long or fail to find a comfortable position, and the screen will start to vignette. This functions alongside carefully voice-acted breathing changes, gasps, and voice lines to indicate danger or relief, and feels infinitely more natural without ever having to take your eyes off the goal. Now, my only small critique here is that because the game is so immersive and so dedicated to its details, it can feel pretty jarring to have Ava's legs contort like a cryptid or slightly clip through a wall, and the rare moments during which the auto limb selection falters, or when the game fails to register that you're clearly safe to climb a ledge or let go, can be particularly frustrating. These moments are pretty rare though, and honestly speak to how skilled Cairn is at creating this illusion the other 99% of the time. Honestly, maybe I needed the occasional reminder that I was playing a video game, because my ass was not climbing a fucking mountain. Cairn is also frustrating on purpose. Sometimes ledges wouldn't line up conveniently. Sometimes it would start to rain right as I started on a particularly tricky segment. Sometimes it would get dark, like so dark, like that scary outside in nature away from civilization dark. Like, I can't overstate this. I'm talking I would literally be leaning in super shrimp mode and squinting at my monitor. But this frustration and friction, even in times where I'd fall and lose 20 minutes of progress in an instant, never made me want to quit. The feeling of the game's world not revolving around my convenience is rare, and one I always try to cherish, and so I would simply lock the fuck in. Cairn is already a strong contender for my 2026 Game of the Year, and is also one of those games where the footage doesn't really do it justice. It's just like, yep, there she is, really climbing that mountain. Games are art generally speaking, but like, this one's art with the word art italicized in my script. They're gonna teach this game in one way or another. Who? Where? I don't know. But like, when I was drawing shaky connections between Persona and English literature for a final project in high school, and my teacher imagined the feeling of being able to walk through a Walt Whitman poem or assume the role of Benjamin Braddock in The Graduate, I'd like to think this is what he was getting at. Stop me if you've heard this one before. Rhythm Doctor is easily the most creative and captivating rhythm game I've ever played. Rhythm Doctor is easily the most creative and captivating rhythm game I've ever played. Oh, you have heard that one. So, technically speaking, I have already featured Rhythm Doctor in this series back in 2021, but that was when the game was still in early access. And trust me, the content added between then and its release in late 2025 is more than enough to give it penultimate game in this video status. If you're wondering why it isn't the final game, feel free to check the indie recommendation rulebook that doesn't exist because I make the rules. For those of you unfamiliar with Rhythm Doctor, it's a one-button rhythm game about assisting various hospital patients by hitting on every 7th beat. What blossoms outward from this initial concept is a truly masterful and challenging exploration of a single button press. Some patients have 2 beats instead of 7, some have 5, there's triplets, offbeats, swing, sometimes you'll even have to treat multiple patients at the same time as their beats combine into unique patterns. Rhythm Doctor's real magic, though, is its ability to weave these musical concepts into its storytelling, as each hospital patient introduces a new affliction to test your skills. details. For example, Cole is a stressed musician with arrhythmia that flares up after too much coffee, causing some of his beats to unexpectedly skip or his tempo to double and halve. The game also trades the massive library of music common in this genre for a tighter-knit track list filled with original music designed as dynamic sequences rather than traditional charts, packed to the brim with incredibly subtle artistic details. One of my favorite examples of this can be found in one of Lucky's levels, where his multi-beat mechanic perfectly synchronizes with the lyrics, creating a sort of fourth-dimensional interactive word painting. The line, "One slip too late, 3 strikes for me," contains the numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4, which coincide with the number of beats you have to hit in a row.
One slip too late, 3 strikes for me.
I could talk about chart details in this game until the fucking sun burns out, but there's one more surprise I want to focus on. In a display of genuine computer wizardry, the game will force itself into windowed mode to turn the program into a gameplay element. The window moves and jumps with the beat, morphs into a smartphone's text messages, fakes out errors and crashes, and even serves as a literal window to reveal or hide visuals. In a level about a strained relationship, there is a striking physicality to the two characters' separate windows literally smashing into each other and glitching out every time they do. What felt like a clever gimmick in the levels I played back in 2021 now feels fully realized as a storytelling tool unlike anything I've ever seen. The one element of Rhythm Doctor that doesn't quite line up with the levels are the individual storylines, which are kinda hit or miss. The game is fantastic at giving characters leitmotifs and defining their struggles through music and gameplay, but their isolated episodic nature can feel a bit scattered or simplistic at times, which also forces the grand overarching narrative to rush its way to the finish line a bit. And yet, despite this weakness, when it comes to grabbing narrative and gameplay like two action figures and smacking them together for a kiss, there's no other rhythm game on the level of Rhythm Doctor. It never stops introducing new musical concepts in accessible ways while simultaneously creating some truly enchanting set pieces. As much as it pains me to say, I will not be spoiling the finale in this video, but it does things I did not know a program on my computer could do. It made me tear up several times. It fuses every narrative thread, every mechanic, every motif, and every lyric introduced in the game's 6 acts into a truly challenging 15-minute long sequence that is one of the best final bosses I have ever seen in my entire life. If you like rhythm games, check out Rhythm Doctor. Even if you don't usually like rhythm games, check out Rhythm Doctor. I don't even think I wrote any jokes in this segment, man. You're telling me I waxed so poetic I forgot to film a bit where I'm jamming to the music like last time? Hang on.
I punish myself by depriving my health of the things that I like until I fix this. But it doesn't really help, I just get more depressed. I do even less, cause I can't work when I'm stressed.
Angeline Era is a game that opens with a boss fight against 1 fish, then 2 fish, then 4 fish, then 8 fish, then 16 fish, then 32 fish. Whether or not that's why it gets the final spot in this video can be left to interpretation. Angeline Era is a deceptively simple wonder of an action-adventure game. The main hook is the bump slash. To attack enemies, all you gotta do is bump into them. And it's pretty damn fun. What really makes the game come alive is the way its world is designed. As you begin your adventure, you might notice something strange. There are no marked levels at all. By holding a button, you can investigate any tile you're standing on, and if you investigate tiles that seem important or out of place, they'll often reveal the entrance to an entire level. Right from the get-go, this imbues the experience with a truly unique sense of discovery. Once inside a level, you'll progress from room to room using your trusty bump slash and gun that only fires up to kill enemies and solve puzzles. What keeps levels interesting is that there are specific conditions required to progress each room, to the the point that you can slowly start to intuit which enemies might be the ones you need to kill to clear the area. Plus, playing on a higher difficulty like Inferno gives you the chance to internalize tougher levels, in the same way you might slowly solve a puzzle or learn a boss's attack patterns. Some levels also iterate upon this format or break away from it entirely, resulting in a journey that continues to surprise and delight over its 15-ish hour runtime. Levels can be action-packed challenges, sure, but they can also be towns, puzzles, narrative set pieces, platforming gauntlets, or an entire mining minigame with its own progression system. Plus, I don't know how many times I've said plus at this point, the investigation action isn't limited to the overworld, as you can use it within levels to reveal hidden items and secrets. Over the course of my playthrough, it never stopped feeling rewarding to pull out my magnifying glass and find a little reward, serving as a reminder of the craft that went into constructing the game itself. And once you discover enough secrets, you might even pick up on certain patterns that'll help you find even more. The way this world expands and connects together through the discovery of new levels adds another layer of excitement beyond just finding them due to what they can reveal and the different orders in which they can help you tackle main objectives. If that sentence felt a little vague, it's because I love this fucking game, but I gotta make sure I don't spoil too much of the whimsy, you know? What consistently impressed me was the game's ability to juggle so many ideas and tones without feeling jarring. In some moments, you might be quietly reflecting at a cross or taking in some scenery, but you can just as easily get called a PP head or investigate a spot that looks interesting only to be rewarded by a giant wrecking ball that spawns out of nowhere and fucking kills you. The absurd never really feels out of place, and I think this is in part due to the game's breathtaking aesthetic. From the dreamy PS1-inspired art style to the vast, diverse, gorgeous, honestly, it's kind of hard to pick just one qualifier to use for the soundtrack. Sometimes it's blaring a terrifying boss theme for a concerning amount of marine life. Sometimes it's so wistful and hypnotic that it sounds like the forest itself is echoing through the pads and synths. And sometimes a song called Hehe Funny Town comes on and blares a Looney Tunes-ass car.mp3 sound effect at full volume over goofy MIDI trumpets, only for said trumpets to get interrupted by an even goofier gong crash. When paired with the low-poly grass and rain and fog, I found these tracks so enchanting that I was often longing for an era of games I didn't even grow up playing. Amidst all this artistry is a very engaging story about Irish folklore, religion, Asian American heritage, and other layers I can only pretend to understand. It's mysterious, it's funny, it's unnerving, and it's also about time for me to shut up before I give too much away with my adjectives. Usually I speak on the final game in each of these videos for way too long, but in a similar fashion to Lorelei or Tunic, to speak too much here would be to rob you of too many beautiful secrets, and I'm sure this isn't the only time I'll talk about this game. Angeline Era is the result of a razor-sharp vision brought to life by some incredibly talented artists. It is the kind of game that drives me to make these videos, and I hope it earns as many best indie game you've never played monikers and deep dive analysis videos as possible. And with the snap of my fingers, your wishlist now has 6 more games on it. I've been making these videos for 6 years now, and I never really stopped being surprised, which I think is a good thing. After I made the one where I stacked 9 heavy hitters like Balatro and Lorelei and 1,000 times Resist, I kinda went, oh, no way I'm gonna make a video that feels like that again. And then the games just come out faster than I can play them. Like, to spite me. They've been stepping up to the plate swinging nothing but home runs, like Mina, boom. Cairn, boom. Rhythm Doctor was already the pinch hitter last inning, but it stepped back up to the plate and hit another home run. Indie games are a never-ending wellspring of joy and inspiration that I get to curate and share as part of my job, and for that, I am very grateful. If you want to help support videos like these, you can check out my Patreon in the description, where I'll also be starting a little newsletter digest in case you're looking for even more media recommendations from yours truly. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.